We can start on your front porch.
Good morning, everyone. I am Yvonne Mason, along with my other host, Mary Brotherton, and we host All Things Books and Publishing. We are Midnight Publishing. We do not charge our authors to publish their work simply because this is a service that God has put us on the path of doing, and we do it for Him, not for us. With that being said, our guest today is Carol Bellavance. And Carol and I have known each other for a while. Carol is very faith-based, like Mary and myself, and we all believe that things happen for a reason. And when my prior publisher died, I did not know what to do because I had people asking, okay, who's going to publish our books? God said, yeah, okay, this is now your job. And I don't question God. Yeah, no, that would be like questioning my earthly parents. You don't question, you just say, yes, sir, and you do it. So we started Midnight Publishing in June of 2024. We are working on our second year of publishing authors. Carol and I sat on my front porch and had a discussion. And I'm going to let Carol tell her story because, like many writers, and Mary can attest to this, like many writers, we get afraid to put ourselves out there for fear of rejection, for fear of being made fun of, for fear of being told we're not good enough, for fear of people just going, what, it's a nice hobby? That is not what we do here. We are dream makers because God has given us this gift. So, good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
And she has her sidekick, and I love it. He's a cutie pie.
Yeah, come here, Panda.
That's okay. I've had children. I have a Frenchie that's snoring under my feet.
Oh,
So,
that's cute.
without further ado, let's talk about your journey, how you got here, and the blessings that have been given and the blessings that have been received because A, you trusted the process, B, you trusted God, C, you trusted us, D, you trusted yourself because once you understood that God had given you this gift that we had to share, things started happening. So tell our audience about all of this.
My journey probably started when we were talking from your front porch that day. Started from Connecticut because I had been involved with Christian music in Connecticut at the Danbury Coffee House. And we used to go, and every month they had musicians that would come and play. And when we moved to New York, my husband thought we should move to New York to help my mom. And I was very involved with a church there that was very much into having things shovel ready to be able to share and do different things. And I didn't want to move. I mean, I was pretty grounded, had a lot of really good friends and everything else. So I actually went to my pastor and asked him, I said, is there a biblical reason why I don't have to move? And he couldn't think of one. And I'm like, come on, So we moved to New York. We actually put our house up for sale. And my husband said, if we're supposed to move, that God will make us move. And if not, then, and it basically sold within, I don't know, hours. It was taking about 5 years to sell houses in the area at that time. And ours went up we signed the papers, and before the sale sign even got in the front yard, we got a phone call saying, we have papers basically signed, we know that this is going to go through. Have you found a house? And no, we haven't. So we went on a search to find a house, and we ended up in New York, in Rouse's Point, a lovely, lovely area on the lake there, a wonderful community. And we ended up at the Wesleyan church there that embraced us as home. But the story of getting there was basically of music from the Danbury Coffee House, because there was no music up in New York. There was no Christian music at all. And I had met Trevor through a friend of mine, and he had asked, he said, do you know anybody? Because he shared that passion of wanting to have Christian music up in New York. And he said, do you know anybody at all that you could think of that you could ask to come up? And I knew Dave Pettigrew from Danbury Coffee House. So at that point, I actually made a phone call and asked Dave, I said, by any chance, would you even consider coming up? And he, to my surprise, he did. And he never stopped. And the first time that we had some people gather, I think there were maybe 15 people. And I thought, oh, he'll never come back. And he's like, nope, this is what you do. This is how you grow it. We'll continue it and everything else. And he went from Plattsburgh to Rouse's Point to Moores. He was over in Vermont. People in Canada had wanted him. He helped basically Trevor, who had a dream, and Trevor Finley up at Moore's camp. He helped Trevor basically in starting Up North Worship, which is going to be its 5th year now, up there doing that. And all these musicians have come in and everything else due to different things that just God put together the pieces of. And so from there, when my husband had cancer and my mom had dementia, and she has Alzheimer's, with Winters and everything else, a friend of ours had helped us in moving this way for things to be better, basically, for our lives and everything else. And a dear friend of mine that life would not be the same without. And this whole thing of coming down here again was the Christian music and the different things too. But if you know anything about Dave, you also know that he doesn't just do Christian music. He has where he does podcasts, he does Bible studies underground, he does basically daily devotions and everything else. So when I was in New York, we took some of those and we made them into groups. We did different things with them. And we had different groups that were growing because of it. And it was really cool. And down here didn't have anything like that. So I had actually started to put together some things that were, again, shovel ready, of what you could do if you were to do a retreat or different things. Because I had girlfriends that we used to do retreats with and different things and be able to share that. Well, then I was on Yvonne's porch and we're talking testimonies and we're talking different things. And she's like, you have things that I think are shovel ready, because she had me show her them. And then she says, well, you do realize what I do for a living, right? And I'm like, well, and that's when you gave me the shove of what you thought. And I'm like, no. Like, you can tell your side now. Yeah.
So what I told her was this. When God gives you a gift, if you put that gift in the ground and bury it, or you hide it, or you don't go out and make more gifts, then you lose that gift. The first book we did was Open Hearts and Safe Haven Prayers, and she kept saying, I'm not putting my name on this book. I said, oh, but yes, you are.
We did. We talked
said,
about
no,
that.
I'm not. I said, but yes, you are.
I'm like, but it's God's.
And I said, yes, it is God's. God even the writers of the Bible, especially in the New Testament, Paul's letters, he says, I, Paul. So you know who wrote those letters. There's nothing wrong with taking credit for what God has given you. So with the first book, we said Carol Bellavance, inspired by God. And then the other books started coming, and Carol Bellavance's name is on there because she can't stop what she's doing because God keeps feeding her information. Now, because of this first book, tell our listeners what has happened in New York with that Sunday school class.
The first book was actually inspired by me from one of the daily devotions Dave Pettigrew had done. And I expanded on that, wanting to do kind of a shovel-ready retreat with the feet of Jesus. And put it into pamphlet form as well as the book because I just thought it should be ready, and it just really inspired me and spoke to me. And I had asked Dave if I could do it, and he's like, yeah, run with it, please. Just run with it. If you're feeling that from your heart, just run with it. And he was most gracious and just allowing me to expand and do and just run with it. And we added a lot of other things in that book. But that was the premise of that. I think when you're talking about the Sunday school class, I think it's the one with the grounding of holding on to Jesus through the storms. And that one was actually written with pictures that are actually from Rouse's Point, where it's from the docks, it's from the piers, it's from the sailboats, and how the sailboats can rock, and they can actually end up on rocks if you have really bad storms. The docks will go up and down, they will stay, but they're going to move, and then you've got the pier that's rock that doesn't move at all. And what are we grounded in, and what is our faith grounded in, that when we have the storms of life, that we're not going to be rocked around so much that we're completely destroyed and we end up on the rocks. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we end up rocking. But how do we get to the point that we're grounded in that faith where we're more of the pier than the other, regardless of what's happening around us? And that's not always easy. But when you think of it as adults and us doing this, it's like, I just wanted my Sunday school class that I had in New York to be able to feel God in that every day because of what's happening in schools, what's happening in the world. And it's just like, my hearts are always with them, even though I'm down here, and I just wanted them to have that to be able to hold on to. So that's where that book came from. And I had one of the mothers call and tell me that their child, let me put it that way, was reading this book to them in the car, and they didn't even realize it was my book. And she said, I found out afterwards it was yours, and she says, and everybody needs to hear this. So that kind of touched my heart, making me feel like that's good, because I know it's reaching them and it's giving them something. And that's the idea of it all, I think, is to just enrich our lives and to fill other people. And how, God does that for us. How can we do that for other people? And just being able to pass that along.
And that is part of service. And we are put here to serve using whatever tools that God has given us to serve with. Carol happens to be able to put it on the page in words that young people relate to. And that is a gift within itself, because generally young people don't listen to anybody, especially adults. It's not until they get 40 years old they understand, yeah, mom and daddy weren't so stupid after all. But Carol has this ability to relate to these young people without judgment, without condemnation, with I don't want to say simple wording because that means that the young people are stupid. That's not the connotation. It is wording that they want to turn the page. They want to know more. Behind holding God's hand through
Easy
the
to
storm,
understand.
easy, easy to understand. Perfect, Mary. Carol then gave me two books at the same time. Advent, which talks about Christmas and the candles and the wreath and what they symbolize, and then what is Lent. And as soon as those books hit, I went on our sales, and what is Lent just went right through the roof because it's getting that time of year. It is getting Easter, and we all know the religious connotation behind Easter and what happened during that week of Lent, the Passover. And so Carol is reaching a group of people that might not have been reached had she not used her God-given talent. So when we say, trust us, trust the process, trust God, there's a reason for that. And Carol's never looked back since. And I'm so proud of you on so many levels for just letting it go and letting God. And I know you got something else in the works.
I do. I was inspired by something else, again from a Dave thing, and I'm just waiting for permission from him. If he gives a sign of approval, I will. It's ready to go. If not, then I need to respect that. So I'm just waiting for word from him on that. But yeah, it's just it's been a journey because, as you know, I don't like to be out in the public. I don't like to be center of attention. So this has been really hard for me. Let's put it that way. And Yvonne knows I've been kicking and screaming the whole way. It's just
But on the other hand, Carol, think about this. You don't want to hide your light under a bushel.
No, I've always been small group, and I think that's even like what I've written, and I think things like that have been about bringing people together, or bringing the connections and that type of thing, but actually doing it in more small group form. And I think any book that I've written, you can do that with. And I love doing that myself. I have friends that we've done it with, different groups I've done it with, that I just love to get small groups together.
Right.
That's a passion that I have. So, yeah, chat message. Yeah, you could do
Got
that
a chat
too.
message from Bonnie.
Yeah?
I just flipped over. I thought I saw something come up just a few minutes ago. She said amen to what we were talking about.
Well,
The,
so,
the thing is, and Mary and Carol and I have talked about this at great length. When we open ourselves up, and these two women know me, I don't like being out, but people make me tired. As an empath, they make me extremely tired. So I understand where Carol's coming from. I understand where Mary's coming from. However, we cannot do what we do without interaction with people. It's that simple. Do we have to go crawl in a hole and regenerate? Yes, we do, because it's
yeah.
tiring. I can only imagine, Carol, how Christ must have felt when he was mobbed by the masses. Because take our empathic abilities and our getting tired by being with people and multiply that by tens of thousands for 3 years of his life. He had to have been exhausted.
And how he had to retreat and pray.
Yes,
So if he
exactly.
has to do that, we need to do that. I
You
mean,
are
yeah.
Well put. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about this being a God-driven publishing house, it's very God-driven. It has brought us people that God saw way before I ever started this. Carol's journey started up north. Connecticut, New York, Florida. Carol had no idea when she got down here that she would be where she is today, but God knew it. Chat message, okay.
Again from Bonnie. I can relate, Carol. It's hard to put yourself out there. It's uncomfortable at the same time as being humbled by the grace of God.
Amen.
Amen. That's so true. I mean, it's very humbling. And it's, yeah,
It's
it
also
definitely puts us in our
awe-inspiring.
uncomfort zone. Yeah,
It is
for
To
sure.
me, it's awe-inspiring too. It's like you want to shout from the rooftops, look what God has done through me. But you
Well, it's all
also,
God because he's even met me, and Yvonne knows this, he's met me like at 3 o'clock in the morning, just like so heavily and given me these things that it's like, no, you have to get up and you have to like put them into book, into form because if not, it becomes too heavy to carry.
it does.
And you
It does.
have to like release it and put it on paper because otherwise it just you can't carry it. It's just and that's God. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a true sign that that's God. That I mean,
100%.
that's not me. That's all him. So
And let me tell you what else happened, ladies and gentlemen. My daughter, who is my author's biggest promoter in the
She
state
is
of
such a
Georgia,
good cheerleader.
she is.
she works at night, and she said, if y'all will send me swag, basically bookmarks, business cards, whatever, I will hand them out at work. Carol was the very first person to send her bookmarks and her books, and as soon as she got them, seeing it's real simple, as soon as she got them, Brandy took them to work and handed them out. I did not know that she had already done that, but I went on our sales page and I'm seeing Carol Bellavance, Carol Bellavance, what happened here? What has moved this? Come to find out, she had handed out the bookmarks at work, and as soon as she handed them out, people were going on and ordering the books. And then a couple of nights ago, one of the ladies said, have you got any more of those bookmarks? Can you get any more? And Brandy said, yeah, I got them in my backpack in the break room. Why? They said, we want more to hand out to our family and our friends. So, again, when Carol started this journey, God knew what the plan was. He didn't tell her because he didn't want to overwhelm her and make her say, God, can you send somebody else? Because I'm Jonah and I really don't want to go to Nineveh. Really don't want, but God, I really don't want to go. I'm not smart enough. I really don't want to go to. And God said, I'm going to put you to belly of that well. So what Carol didn't realize, but God did, is by her being on this journey, she's touching lives that may be the only way these lives are touched is through her books. Nobody else could touch that life, but you could through your books.
If you don't mind sharing the story, share the story of the next piece of that because I think that's cool about that God connection.
Go ahead.
No, because that's your story with your daughter about
Share
about, huh?
it. You share it.
No, go ahead. You tell it well because you tell it better than I do. But that is such a God story. That is like so cool.
Which one? There's so many. I forget.
The one that she met through the bookmark that wants to write the book.
The child.
Child.
Yes.
The child. Okay, so last night I did a live on my Facebook page because I had some exciting news to tell. And Brandy gets down there and she says, I got something in the works. I'm going, oh dear, what have you done now? I never know with her. And then she explained to me that her LTL which is her boss, was very excited because her 12-year-old daughter was in a group of 50 that had written a book, and she was in the top 5, and her book was on display at the school, and her mother was very, very excited. And Brandy said, well, if she wants to get published, I can hook you up with a publisher. She said, my mother's a publisher. She went, what? She said, yeah, my mother's a publisher. She said, and the best part is my mother does not charge anything, and your daughter gets all of her royalties off the sale of the book. And the mother was speechless. Brandy showed her some of our stuff. And so she was going to go home and talk to her daughter. Now, if this comes to fruition, then that will be our youngest author. And again, it has to do with Brandy promoting the authors, Brandy taking Carol's bookmarks to work, and putting our authors out there. And what Brandy also told Jennifer was, do not allow any other publisher to try to get a hold of your daughter, because they will rape and pillage her. They will scam her. And she explained to her about traditional publishing and about the scam artist. And Jennifer was just agog. And again, in this industry, ladies and gentlemen, it happens on a daily basis. Scammers and vanity presses. I was on looking at another on my feed this morning where an author sent $6,000 to a publisher. $6,000 for him to publish his book. He asked for the book back. The publisher wouldn't give it back to him, but yet the publisher put it up on Amazon.
And the publisher's reaping the money from that.
Exactly.
And you do so much for us. You really do. I mean, it's just even
doing...
from, I mean, even I'm everything. I mean, you've from book covers to the first one to redesigning, because I was not in that phase of, and then just being able to relinquish and have that trust and everything else in the process. And you've made it very simple and very, but it was being able to relinquish that. And it's just, yeah. And it's.
So now she just sends me a manuscript, says, here, go do it.
So much easier that way.
I'm moving on to the next book.
Well, we talk ideas and stuff, but yeah, it's just like, yeah. I mean, there's just such a trust there now that
so much
it's just
when you don't have to micromanage.
No, not at all. There's a trust. There's a certain humbleness about it, and there's just that God's hand is in it, and it's I don't know. There's a peace about it.
Chat message.
Bonnie said all those videos that went out yesterday are fantastic.
Thank you.
And they are. And I was telling Yvonne before the show started, I got approached yesterday by 2 different artists wanting to help me collaborate with my children's books and whatnot. So I thought, I'm going to follow this rabbit down the hole and see where it leads. And one of them got back to me. She won't touch AI, but yet she's a digital artist. I'm not sure how you can say you don't touch AI if you only do digital art. It's the same thing. It's just got a different name. And she only charges $75 per image. Now, if I use somebody who charge for a 32-page children's book, which is what I typically do, that's $7,500. I've already published, 8 or 10, 8 or 9 books? I don't remember.
You've got some amazing.
I lose track of what I've done. I can't afford that. That's almost $10,000 per book.
Now
let's made of money.
Let's think about this, girls. Because when I was on the live this morning, I think I made this statement. We are a global company. We are an international book selling company. December, January, we've sold books in over 11 countries, and it's already started again in February. On our website, we are seen in 48 countries. We are seen in 411 regions, and we are seen in 253 cities. Our YouTube channel is 4,054,495 views. We're on the YouTube TV. So we operate with no budget, no money, and look what God has done. Talking about the 5 loaves and 2 fishes.
Yeah.
But yet somebody wants to charge $75 per image. They're a digital artist, which is AI. I don't care how, when you, as Sarah Palin used to say, you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. I don't care what you call it, it is still AI. You are still taking something from something and creating something else. I do it all day long. When we do what is right, when we give God the glory for driving this train, and we accept that He has a plan, and we understand that we are part of that plan, even though we don't know where we're going, it doesn't matter. We're on this journey. Carol is seeing things happen in her life. She's reaching people that she might have never reached with the retreat.
Yeah. God's working definitely through it all. You can see it. And I welcome that, because that, I mean, if that's something that God can do, is use it to reach other people, or to reach other homes, or to reach other communities, or people to use to be able to do their own sit around tables or retreats, or just have group gatherings and being able to talk about Him. How awesome is that God's using it for that? I mean, if He can use it for that, that's worth any uncomfort or any uncomfort zone I'm in, to be able to do that. Matthew Jones, if he's watching, my friend of mine, he'll be laughing going, oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
okay,
because he knows how much I hate this. He'd be like, yeah, like I'll be getting the side eye. I know it right now.
You know that?
It's just like, yeah. So
Go back to your Bible. Who was Jesus's main man?
Peter.
What did Peter do?
He denied Him.
Speak. He stuttered.
Yep, he did.
Jesus uses those who think they are the least to help promote His word. But I have to share this. I just
Peter's the rock.
Okay.
The cities, the number of cities that we are covering compared to the number of cities and towns in the United States, we're in the top 1.3%.
I rest my case.
That's God. It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind.
Well,
Because
if
you right here, I know people look at us and they might not believe this, but there are 3 introverts right here. We would rather stay home, sit in our cages and do our little thing and ignore the rest of the world. But we are putting ourselves out there because this is how we serve God.
And He doesn't tell us how to serve. He just says serve.
Yeah.
He just says go.
Bonnie just said, wow. Yeah, I am constantly in awe when I do the math, and I am not a math person. Math does not like me, but I love statistics.
Me too.
And so I love to take the books that are selling or the authors that are doing well and compare them and see what Amazon says. I mean, when you look at the numbers of where our books are ranking, knowing that there are, Yvonne talks about 4,500,000 some odd thousand views on
You, YouTube.
YouTube. That's 4 million. There are more than 44 million book titles on Amazon. Probably closer to 45 million by now. And when you look at somebody's book ranking, and the only one I can think of right now is my Ramonda's, and that's a God thing if there ever was one. Number 43 in her category. Now, I don't know how many books are in children and adolescents asthma. I dare say it's tens of thousands, at least. But I get bogged down sometimes in the numbers. It just makes me so humble and so proud to be associated with Midnight Publishing.
Yeah, when you post some of the things you do, it blows my mind. It's just like, okay, that's God, because it's like, that's God. It's just, wow.
Did you ever think,
Yeah, it's humbling. It's very humbling. Yeah.
Did you ever think you would be a best-selling author?
No, never. No, no.
And let me say this real quick.
And from the porch of Yvonne's office.
Strong arm you.
Just from bringing her flyers for an event that was going to be, she was doing for the veterans. This is how it developed. It's just, yeah.
I want to say it was Chris Dunham who made a comment because we had given him an award for some of his book sales, and he was like, well, I'm pretty sure this is just on Midnight Publishing. Yes, but it doesn't matter if you are a best-selling author at Midnight Publishing, if you're a best-selling author at the New York Times, which we'll get into that in a minute, or if you're a best-selling author on the street corner, you're a best-selling author. And
That is true.
at some point, I want to take, I need to dig into Yvonne's statistics and figure out which one of Midnight Publishing's books is the top seller of all time.
Well, that's an easy thing I can do.
Silent Scream.
Probably.
I was gonna say, I like to hear those stories too of how it affects people, how it enriches their lives or makes something better.
Bonnie just said, well put. Did y'all know? Well, I know Yvonne knows this. And Chris and Yvonne and I talked about this last week. To get on the New York Times bestsellers list, publishers have to pay. It's basically buying an ad. So it's not, yes, it does propel book sales. Yes, it does help people look and go, oh, well, I should buy another Stephen King book. Why? But we are, whether we are the top seller for the month or the year or the whatever, in our own right, each one of us Midnight Publishing authors is a best-selling author.
One book at a time.
In our own home.
One book at a time. And the reason we feel this way, ladies and gentlemen, is when I started this journey 20 years ago, indie authors were dirt under people's shoes. Nobody wanted to read an indie author because we were not good enough. Well, I lived with that stigma all my life. So a group of us got together and said, watch us. And I've told this story before, and I'll keep telling it until it resonates. There was no social media. The first social media I had was MySpace. That's how far back I go. The only way to publish our books was through Lulu. And now Lulu's stepping up and working with, I think, somebody else because they're trying to horn in on Amazon, but that's another whole story. So, and we had no way to market our books. There was no AI, there was no websites, there was no way to market. We created ways. We marketed each other through MySpace. So when I tell you that this has been a 20-year journey to get here, and all of these young writers out there, all these young authors out there that think they have stumbled onto something new, they haven't. Because independent publishers go all the way back to Poe and Shakespeare. They were independently published. Poe even had to start his own publishing house to get his books published because nobody would take him. So to get here, the journey hasn't been easy. But if it's easy, then it's not worth doing. It gives me an appreciation for the authors that need a voice. That God is saying, okay, I don't care what it takes to get Carol Bellavance on board. You get her on board. Threats, promises, waterboarding, arm twisting. You get her on board.
Cups of coffee.
He wasn't that bad, no.
Because I have a plan for her. I have a journey I want her to take because I see something down the road that what she's got locked in that brain of hers is going to help someone else. So I don't care what you do, you get her on board. No is not an option. It was a journey, but I can be tenacious. And when I tell y'all that I know my flaws, opinionated, domineering, overbearing, I used all three of those on her. Because those
I
became
needed a huge push. But I'm grateful. But I needed that huge push. I wasn't easy.
No.
I needed that push too.
But it worked because even though I used those flaws, they were not done in an abrasive manner.
No, not at all.
They were done quietly but firmly. Like,
Bonnie's laughing in the chat, y'all.
because God has a plan and I'm his vessel. And if I don't do what he's asking me to do, then all the blessings that I have received, I lose. And I'm kind of selfish. I don't want to lose my blessings. I want to give blessings. And I don't want to lose the blessings that God has given me.
Thank you for the push.
You're welcome, my darling.
Many pushes.
Bonnie's like me too. I know that a lot of us needed to be, dragged into midnight publishing, kicking and screaming almost.
And that's being kind.
It's
Oh, no,
truth. It's
the
truth.
day that I was spiraling out of control, and she just looked at me. She said, "Mary, stop. Just stop." And then she gave me my assignment. I do really well with assignments. I do really well with challenges. I quit taking dares when I swallowed a whole boiling jalapeno pepper on a dare. That taught me that dares aren't good. But give me a challenge and an assignment, and I'm all over it.
But the deer in the headlights look was worth it. What? You're telling me to stop? Me? Me? How dare you?
Pretty much.
Because I can.
My husband calls me she who shall be obeyed. So here's this, well, Dale Veely says that Yvonne is a 4 foot whatever, 4'11", 10-foot skyscraper because her energy is so much bigger than she is. And we learn, you don't, what, remember the old commercial? You don't, nobody messes with Mother Nature. It was a butter commercial. And that's
Gotcha.
kind of how I think all of us feel about Yvonne. Don't mess with Mother Yvonne.
Eve,
She's not to be reckoned with.
well, I can I share a little something?
Absolutely.
Okay. In when we were doing the event for the veterans, Dave was there with Matthew Jones. And Matthew Jones had written a song just for the veterans, and Dave was there doing some music for the veterans. And they were wonderful and everything else. And if you had ever told me when I was in New York that they would come to Florida to do all this, I would have been like, yeah, right. So that in itself was a God thing. But then when Dave met Yvonne, he was the same thing. It's like, I love this lady. She's like so on fire, and she's like got this together and everything else. And she says she'll keep them in their place. And it was so funny. And it's like, he's like, if she ever wants to do an event, I'd come back and do it with her. So, yeah. So it's that personality just shines through on what you do. It's definitely.
Chat
Another
message.
chat message from Bonnie. That's why I loved her from day one. Jason loves her for that very reason. Now, I don't know who Jason is.
That's her son. He comes and disc jockeys for us some of our events. And because, ladies and gentlemen, this is another thing that I've been doing since the Stone Age. Because I've been putting on events all of my life, and because I learned at a very early age how to be structured, how to do things in order, and how to keep things running smoothly, even if there's a hiccup.
And there's always a hiccup.
Yeah, you just go and quietly fix the hiccup and move on. You don't make a big production out of it because it doesn't matter. Nothing is ever perfect. But when we do events at our clubhouse, I run the front. My president, he runs the back. That is the kitchen and the food, and I run the front. And I have got it down to a science. We can set that hall up in about 45 minutes. Because everybody, when they come in to do volunteer work, I've had the same group of people for 3 years. They know what they're supposed to do. They come in and they do it, and there's no egos involved because I don't allow egos. If you've got an ego, take it outside and leave it at the door, or take it with you and go back to the house, because we don't do egos. But everything runs on a schedule. And if the train tries to jump the track, we just gently put it back on the track and move on. That's the way that we run Midnight Publishing. That's why I say you get asked 2 questions when you say you want to come on board. Do you trust the process, and will you trust us? And if the answer to either one of those questions is, well, maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to say, sorry, can't help you. Because this train runs on this track and we're not going to let it derail. Number 1, when you send me your book, be prepared for me to do your graphics, be prepared for me to do your cover. Be prepared to have a conversation. Case in point, my sweet little Aaron Frakes, he is just gobsmacked. I think the boy is still speechless. He'd been rejected by a publisher. He's Mary's son. She sent him to me, and he came with trepidation. Lots of trepidation. Got his book ready. He had a cover that he was happy with. And I said, we're going to go with it. And I said, this is what the back cover looks like. I put a transport with people in it in the desert. And he said, can we take the transport off? I said, absolutely not. And this is why. Because that transport is the meat of your story. And if you take that transport off, then that story becomes just another sci-fi.
And once you put that shadow on it, he was thrilled.
He put the shadow on it.
Did he?
Yeah. He
I
said, "Are
thought
you?"
you did that.
No, he said, "Are you okay with this?" I said, "Yes." It's another one of those things, I can't let go. But he'll get there. But anyway, when I sent him everything and I said, "Okay, this book is going up," because he had been rejected by a publisher. He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, it's going up on Amazon." Will it be live as soon as? No, it won't be live because we do pre-marketing. That's what it's all about. You build the anticipation. I said, "You'll have Kindle pre-orders. Everything that we put up, we put on a Kindle pre-order." Carol can tell you some of her books were pre-ordered by Kindle. Just drops down when it goes live. And I said, "But the book doesn't go live until the 28th. Until then, I need you to step up, get on social media, and start putting out what I'm feeding you." And he's done it. But he learned to trust the process because his mother had already told him, "If you don't trust Yvonne, it ain't going to happen."
Yep. I kind of had to hammer that into him. And it's comical is the word I'm using. Good friend of his is also an author. And he hasn't published anything yet. He starts a lot of books, but he hasn't finished anything. And so when he saw the cover, immediately he told my son, I don't like that cover. I think you should hire somebody to do an official cover that's better than this. And it should, you blah, blah, dot, 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 dot. And I asked my son, I said, "How many books has he published?" 0. "How many books has he finished?" 0. "How many publishers does he actually know?" 0. So he doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Exactly.
And the funny thing, after I had that conversation with him, I mentioned it to my husband, and I didn't tell him what I said. Curtis came back with pretty much the same thing. "Well, if this other guy doesn't have any books published, he can't speak from experience." And on top of that, my other son, Aaron's brother, whom Aaron absolutely adores, his older brother, came back with almost verbatim, word for word, what Curtis had said and what I had said. So now he's got 3 people saying, "You've got a woman who's been publishing books for more than 20 years. You've got your mom who's been publishing books for the last 4 years. And you got this guy who has 0 books under his belt. Who do you think you should trust?" And so Aaron said, "Well, I think I'm going to trust Yvonne."
Good, because if he'd have told me to take the book down, guess what it would have cost him?
Oh, I've already told him it would cost him at least $50.
Because he signed off on it.
Yep. And I know that you sent him one email that said, "If you make any last minute changes, there will be consequences." And I told him, I said, when she says consequences, she means money out of your pocket. But not $75 per image.
No. And the thing is, it was his front cover.
Yeah.
That's the one, and we've made it work with the videos.
Oh, yes.
And if anybody out there hasn't seen Mary's children's books with all of the images and all of the graphics in it, they're phenomenal. So you should check those out.
They're magical.
They
And
are.
even
They're
my
amazing.
graphic novels. And I'm working on another graphic novel. I've just got to find a way to wrap it up.
And those are actually going around where my mom's in a memory care unit, and with Alzheimer's, and they're not just for kids because they're actually going around that memory care unit.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
So yeah, they're enjoying those. So yeah,
The
Well,
thing
I
because
know-
color's the last thing for Alzheimer's patients
Yes.
to lose. So for them to be able to have something that's a visual with a lot of color
that's
is really
good.
cool.
Great
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah.
I'm actually in the process, following up on Grandma's heart attacked her. I'm trying to come up with other things like that along that line, like Alzheimer's or hearing aids, or Grandma needs, Grandma can't see anymore, whatever. I've got to figure out what it will be, but I had that idea that this needs to be a series of
Now,
medical.
let's since we're on children's books, let's touch on another author who, when she sent me her book, and I tried to do graphics for her book, and she was insistent on doing photographs that she had taken. And then she sends me an email and is asking about graphics for another book. And she wasn't clear, so I thought she wanted to redo the first book and me, because I saved it. I didn't get rid of the layout. And so I sent it off to Mary. I said, "You're going to have to answer this because I'm not having this conversation. We already had this conversation." So Mary
I'm the
answered,
muscle in the organization.
and she also knows her personally. So
I'm the verbal muscle.
Mary had the conversation with her, and it wasn't about that book at all. It was about another book that she wants to do that involves her two grandchildren. And she wanted me to take photos of her grandchildren and replicate them with graphics. And I said, Mary said, "No, that's not the way it works. Yvonne creates the graphics from the pictures in her head while she is reading this book. And she doesn't just pull one or two. I spend hours pulling down graphics. And then I go back and find the best one that suits. And if I put one up there and then I go back and look at it and I don't like it, I say, no, we're going to replace it. And I go back into my stash.
One image out of possible dozens or hundreds.
One. Yeah, one. Mary's got the images for her books that I didn't use, especially if I could be a giant.
Yeah, those generated such crazy images. It was wonderful.
Yeah, because you can use them for advertising, for marketing. But once it was explained to her that this is how I work, now she's ready. As soon as she gets the book written, I'm sure she's going to send it. But again, it took seeing the results of what I do through God and the talent that He's given me to make books come alive. The same thing with Anata. Anata sent me her book. I sent it back to her and said, okay, this is how it's set up. And she said, well, I really would like to have it like I did my first book. And she sent me the graphic, and I said, Anata, I have a question. Do you want to stand out or do you want to blend in? It's that simple. I said, at Midnight Publishing, we don't blend in. I said,
And
hence,
I know what her first book looks like because I did it.
right.
And like you, I made a lot of options before I could come up with the ones that we settled on. But they were done in the style of traditional children's
Yes.
books. And there is nothing traditional about Midnight Publishing. We don't do things the way everybody's always done it. You know, that
I like the
that,
creativity.
that old expression, that's not how we used to do it back home. It doesn't fly here.
No.
And you know, just because I heard it was told as a joke, but it's really a kind of a life lesson. Young couple got married. He started, he got his first paycheck and they went out and bought a roast. And the first thing she did was she cut that roast in half and put it in the pan and baked it. And so the husband said, why did you do that? My mother never cooked it that way. She said, I don't know. I'll call my mom and ask her. So she called her mother, and her mother said, well, I don't know. That's just the way Grandma always did it. So the girl called Grandma. She said, why do you always cut your roast in half before you cook it? And she said, are you still doing that? That's ridiculous. She said, we did that because Grandpa and I couldn't afford a pan big enough to cook it in.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of reasons that we do things the way it's always been done, but that doesn't make it the right way. And so at Midnight Publishing, we have a big enough pan to cook our roast in. We don't need to chop the wings and the legs off of a turkey to cook it, because, we can put it all in one pan. Whatever we do, and Yvonne is always finding the newest innovation. She's always out there. If she's not actively working on one of our projects, she's looking into new information, or she's exhausted and her blood sugar's dropped and she's passed out for a day. And that doesn't happen often.
I can say too that some of the things I've seen too, like even with my first book, we thought that the back cover was going to be one, and then you run into things too where Amazon will say, that's nice, but you can't do that. So then she comes up with these different creative solutions on how to be able to then make sure that it gets to Amazon and they accept it too. So because of the limitations that they have, or the colorings or whatever, and she's very good at being able to do that and get it out there so that our books are out there. So,
and that was something that I mentioned in that email to the one author who wanted photos. Amazon is so strict on what they accept, and living proof.
We worked through that.
Linda
Yeah.
Humphrey's cornfield flyers, off and on, more on than off, for a whole year to try to get it to be accepted through Amazon.
She does that quickly. She doesn't take a year. She does not take a year to do that. She knows the ramifications. She knows how to. We worked it and reworked it, and it's like, okay, well, it was going to be like a spring cover with yellow on the back. It ended up being more fall with orange, and it's like we've got from sunrise to sunset. That's okay. That's going to work. So it just. But we talked it over, we did it, and it's just you made it easy, and that was not something that was an easy thing for you to do because of Amazon. So, and
when I gave her,
it was just like, okay, we're just gonna make it happen. When we did, So
I gave her the files for Linda's book, and I gave her files for 2 of my books, and I honestly expected her to take at least a month. Maybe 3, 1 per book, especially the one that I struggled with. Within 24 hours, not only did she have Linda's book online, it had sold a copy. And then she had my 2 books up within, the next 2 days. I don't know what she did. I don't know how she did it. I don't care.
No, she's amazing. She's amazing.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm a party of one, both in my personal life and in my professional life. And I don't mean that I am by myself professionally. I am a party of one when it comes to putting these books together. Yeah. And there's a reason for that. The more you mess with the book, the greater the chances are you're going to screw it completely up.
Well, you don't need a committee to do what you do, because then you'd have, however how many people are on the committee. Even if it was just me. Well, maybe you should move. I mean, good Lord, I know I can't help it. I try really hard not to do it, but I mean, like, okay, when you did Lizard Patrol, but his paws aren't white. I know Yvonne was probably going berserk over me.
I was thinking, I have several voodoo dolls here. How much do I love Mary?
That's how I got the heart attack. That one pin. Please go pull it out.
But the reason for that, ladies and gentlemen, is when I am working on an author, I take their books very personally. And I don't want them messed up. And not because somebody would deliberately do it, but by the time you pass manuscripts and book covers back and forth through emails, especially book covers and graphics, they lose their pixels. They become
They
distorted.
degrade.
They're degraded. You're absolutely right. And a lot of times the manuscripts get degraded. The files get corrupt, and then you lose part of the manuscript. So I am very strict about handling these books. Call it OCD if you want to. Call it overmanagement if you want to. But we right now have 100 books published out of this house.
Only 100 or 100 and change?
No, we have 100. A total of 100 books published out of this house.
Well, you know what I'm going to do?
And we've sold 53 of those. And some of them are the same title, but we've had 53.
And that was just in February.
Yes. Plus, Kara's book, Salt Covered Lives, has 7 pre-order sales for Kindle.
I heard that this morning.
And Aaron's has 8.
Nice.
So we're doing something right, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't. When I go on a certain, I'm not gonna give them credit for naming this the group page, because what they're telling their authors is sad. I saw this morning a gentleman, and I think I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, that he paid a publisher $6,000 to publish his book. Now that's hard money. And then he asked for the book back for whatever reason. I don't know what happened, but apparently he found out this publisher was not what he purported himself to be. Publisher refused to give him his book back and then published it on Amazon anyway and is reaping whatever rewards from that book.
That author needs to send you the manuscript, retitle it, get a new cover, new ISBN, and sell his book himself.
Exactly. And I am very protective. So is Mary, of our authors. Any time that one of our authors gets a scam email or a phone call or a DM or, oh, for free, I will publish your book. However, it will cost you, if I edit it, $3,000. We want those because we go back and we have a conversation. And I put it up everywhere. I've been scammed by a publisher. When I first started many, many years ago, my publisher ran off with my PR person to Michigan and took all of our royalties with them. There were 7 of us. I said, burn me once, shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on me. So the trust is not in my vocabulary. These authors will tell you they get, and this was something else that Brandy told Jennifer last night, these authors get every bit of the royalty money they are entitled to. Sometimes it's $50, sometimes it's over $100. Sometimes I hold it until it gets at least $50 because PayPal likes to take their little percentage.
And it's also more rewarding for us as authors to get a check, well, not a check, but a PayPal transfer of $50 than to get 5 transfers of 10.
Right.
I would much rather get this big $50 check.
Because every time, what, baby?
I was going to say, for me, it's not really about the money, because it's more of the passion of what you're printing. But also, any of the monies that I'm getting are going to a separate account so that they can be used towards doing group things or doing music concerts and different things in our areas and bringing it to the local community. Because that's what I want it to be about. Because it's about what God is doing in our own communities and how can we support that.
There you go.
I started doing, I'm sure you've seen them, I just started doing a midnight publishing Q&A. They're like bright purple. and they have the logo on it. And it's always a question with an answer about various things. And it was started because one of the authors does not accept any money from Yvonne. She refuses to accept any royalties. And another author said, well, I still think I should pay you something. And I thought, why? Okay, you want to pay us. Yvonne doesn't want your money. I got medical bills. You can send it to me. But
Send her coffee.
but no, what I thought about was, why don't you, if you're really serious about you want to pay Midnight Publishing, there are options. Go donate to your local library. Go to a local school and read, volunteer, or donate to your adult literacy program. Those are three options you can do that if you feel like you need to, you've got so much money, you want to just give it away, those are three options. There are plenty of charities out there, but those are three options right off the top.
And ladies and gentlemen, there's a couple of reasons that I absolutely refuse to charge my authors. I know what it costs for an indie author to publish. I also know what it costs if you are unfortunate enough to be picked up by a traditional publisher. We had an author on here who had been picked up, and she wound up in debt for thousands of dollars because they gave her an advance, a 5-figure advance. They also paid for her marketing. She got free books. They paid for her editing. But guess what? All of that came out of her advance. She also did not sell enough books to cover the cost of that advance to her, so it was charged back to her.
And her royalties were 3%. She got, so if the book cost $9, she got 30 cents. At Midnight Publishing, if your book cost $9 to buy, the retail price, Amazon's going to take $3. Guess what? We get 6. We get what's left over.
And there is a printing cost, and it's a cost of doing business. But Amazon also says, do you want 30% or you want 70%? I always do 70% for my authors. And I always charge enough for the books that they're reasonable for the reader, but that my authors make money. Whether it's 1 book or 10, they're going to make some money. They're not going to make 40 cents. They're going to make $3 or $4. And that's important because a man is worthy of his hire.
Also, this author who worked with one of the big 5 publishing houses, not even the big 6, she was in one of the top, who was making 3%. She got an advance. Those bookmarks that you send to Brandy, Carol, she couldn't have done that. She would not have been allowed to do that. If they did grant her permission to give away bookmarks, she could only do it up to a certain dollar amount, and then she had to stop. So they might say, well, you can send her 15 bookmarks. It's crazy how the big, authors think, oh, I have to be in with a big publisher. Well, the only way to do that is through an agent. And that's a
I
whole
know
other
that
problem.
Levon and I have talked about even this summer. I've been invited to go to back to Up North Worship to do a table to sell books. And Yvonne I had asked Yvonne if I could use like Midnight Publishing, which is how some of this stuff started with all of this. Hold on, let me get rid of this. But with that, we did this where it has the books, but I can do the midnight publishing on it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because
That's
she's like,
awesome.
yeah, definitely, do that so that it's the midnight publishing, because it's the community of that doing that. It's not, so it that's where there's so many advantages to being with a small publishing company, but also with somebody that the reasons for why they're doing it.
Yeah, it's
I'm
Because
sure
if it's directed by God and God is doing it and God is putting his hand in it, then it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But if God doesn't have his hand in it, watch out, because that's when, yeah.
the sad part with this particular author is she has never, ever, ever, ever received any royalties until she got her first royalty check from us. And she's
And
been out
she's
there
been in the publishing world for a long time.
since the 90s. And when she was with this big house, they asked her to do Gardening for Idiots or Idiot's Guide for Gardening or whatever it is. It's that series. And she had to co-author it with another person. Well, this other person didn't do their job, so they gave her 17 days to do 12 chapters. And then when she sent it in, their editors ripped it apart and rewrote it. She's the expert, but their editors rewrote it. Ladies
You
and
don't
gentlemen,
do that.
no, you don't.
And you don't do that. You
No,
don't
and
do
I
that to your
know.
authors. No, you don't
No.
do that at all. It is what it is.
When I edit a book, I only edit for grammatical errors, for punctuation errors, and for the flow of the book. And I got into a discussion with one of our newest authors because when she sent me her book, she had conversation, she had action, she had conversation, all in the same paragraph. And I said, that's not going to work. And the reason it doesn't work, it's too hard to read. The book does not flow. She said, well, I went to a creative class and a publisher told me how to do that because readers don't want to read a whole lot of different paragraphs. I said, he who can does, he who can't teaches. And I said, trust me. If I'm
You
having
need that
trouble,
visual break.
exactly. If I'm having trouble with the flow of this conversation, you got a reader out there who just wants to read and doesn't want to have to go back 16 different times and reread a paragraph.
Yep. That was
Well,
my
can I-
dad's favorite line that you just said. That was my, yep.
Rework it. So if your character is having a conversation, then all of a sudden they decide to do an action, you break that up and then you bring them back into the conversation in a different paragraph. Don't put it in one paragraph. I call it a paragraph of diarrhea, because all you're doing is just throwing out words.
And when people see a little bit of writing versus a lot of writing, they shut down.
They do. There are authors I
And
won't read.
there's this thing on social media called TLDR that people will post in response. And that means too long, didn't read.
Exactly. And this is what, and so she went back and she reworked it. And she said, Yvonne, I went back and reread it and I understand what you're saying. Because it is not cohesive. You have to, when you're writing, you have to understand you're not writing for yourself. You're writing for the masses. And go ahead.
That reminds me of this one author who you asked me to email on behalf of Midnight Publishing, because her comment was, I want to write this book for my grandchildren. I basically said, then go to Office Depot and print it out there. Because if you're wanting us to print a book, publish a book for you, your grandchildren are not the only people that will be reading it.
Exactly.
And you have to trust that Yvonne can create something that will appeal to your grandsons, but also to everybody else's grandsons and sons. And so that kind of, she wrote back, "Thank you for explaining it. I didn't think of it that way."
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand in this business, when you write a book, yes, you're writing because you have to write, but you also have to write it where it appeals to an audience. Now, not every book is going to be for everybody. I say this all the time, but there is a book for everybody. You want your book to be that book. Case in point, my true crimes, I have gotten threats and hate mail because of the way I write my true crimes. That's the way they're supposed to be written. I have a law enforcement background. I write from a law enforcement point of view. My books are not for the masses unless you're really into true crime, because I don't tell you about my victim's favorite color or their best friend in high school or how popular they were or they were
what
the
kind of grass they were found dead on.
Yeah, that no. You get raw, ripe law enforcement crime scenes, verbiage, and if that's not your cup of tea, fine. Doesn't mean I wrote it wrong.
I think that's where every author, every person that writes, is what is your purpose for writing?
Exactly.
And we all have a different purpose of what's bringing us there and what we're doing.
And that purpose will reach
And
the right people.
right, and that'd be a balance for whoever you are. Like
Exactly.
my balance for me and what I'm choosing to
true
do
crime.
is for a purpose of what I want to, what I'm seeing. Like with
Exactly.
the small groups or the different things and how, what my journey's been. And somebody else's journey will be something different.
What were you saying, Mary?
I was saying you don't just write true crime.
No, I do
You
not.
also write cozy mysteries. You also write failure is not an option. Dreamcatcher. I'm telling you, that book alone is part of it's in my core now. And I scoured it one day and I just started looking for Stanleyisms. And it's so much fun to get a glimpse into not only who Stanley is, but also Yvonne's family. It's a book that I would recommend to anybody at any level for any reason. It's just an amazing little book. Doesn't cost much. Doesn't take long to read it. I had a purpose when I did it, but I actually read it in one. I didn't just read it in a day. I read it and I gleaned and I pulled things to be used for future posts.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Not everybody can write in multiple genres like Yvonne does.
now I write horror, I write comedy, I write dramedy, I write cozy murder mysteries, I write true crime, crime fiction, thrillers,
Children's books.
children's books.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I have many brains under this skull. They're all mini computers, and on any given day, one of them will either short circuit or go into overdrive. I got nothing.
You've
So-
got a lot, and you've got a huge testimony too. So
Thank
it's
you, my
just,
love.
yeah, you do.
Well,
You've got talent.
This morning has flown by so fast, and I have to go bowling. So, Carol, what are your last few words for the listening audience?
And I just hope that anything that I do, I guess, with this can bring hope. And surround yourself with that. I mean, it's like I do that even like with sometimes like with what I wear, like with like even like there's hope, or just knowing that there's love around you and that God loves you and that there is hope, and live the love, because we're all in it together. We're all in this world together. It's just can we build each other up, and how we can just get together, and if any of those books can like put you together in small groups or something like that, and we can build with each other, especially when it's built with a firm foundation with God or Jesus. I welcome that in so many ways.
And her
So,
books are Open Hearts and Safe Haven Prayers, Holding Unto God Through the Storms, What is Lent, and Advent. Mary, what? And they're all on Amazon, and they're all on Kindle, and they're all on Audible. All of them. So you got no excuses. Carol Bellavance. Bellban. Yeah, that word I can't spell. See? Short. Thank you. Short circuit. Yeah.
I got a
Mary-
message from Bonnie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. I'm going to suggest your books to our women's Bible study.
aw,
Nice.
thanks. Thank you. I hope you enjoy them.
So
I'll look forward to feedback.
there
And
you go.
review.
Review. Yes, please. Yes.
So, Mary, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are multiple and varied. Number one, we have a class coming up on March 10th about scammers and spammers and how to make them work for you. Number two, trust the process. If you can't trust the process, trust Yvonne. If you don't know Yvonne, trust Carol. If you don't know Carol, trust me. If you don't know me, that's your loss. And
We got
number
nothing.
number three, just because we are a God-driven organization, that does not mean that we are a religious-driven organization.
Amen.
We are
Amen.
non-denominational.
Exactly.
You don't have to write books about God or church or religion or prayers. I tend to write about angels and dead people, but I also write about heart attacks and friendship, and throwing people from the balcony. Don't be afraid to reach out to us, because the only thing Midnight Publishing will not work with are erotic authors. We just don't have any time for that. We don't need any how-to manuals on that.
We do
So
not.
other than erotica, please don't hesitate to send us your manuscripts. First, go to Midnight Publishing on Facebook, download our guidelines. There's several things that you can download. I forget what they all are right now, but there are several things that you can go and find up there in the pinned comments.
And if I can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She ain't lying.
Yeah.
Her testimony. She ain't lying.
Carol she was December's bestseller.
Yes, she was.
All the authors on
That's
Midnight
God.
Publishing.
That's God.
We had a banner month in December.
And it hasn't stopped. And this is another thing, real quick before we close the show. Ladies and gentlemen, the first quarter of a new year, there's no retail sold. Been in retail all my life. People don't buy except for necessities in the first quarter of the year because they're paying off credit card debt from the silly season. They're getting ready to file and pay taxes, both income, state, and probably property. So there's no extra money. Well, let me tell you what God is doing. Midnight Publishing is selling books. We're 3 days out from the end of the month. And we have already sold 53 books, not including the 8 pre-orders for Maniphage and the 7 pre-orders for Salt Covered
That's
Lies.
15 pre-orders.
Yes.
It's awesome.
So that is 69 books, basically, in 25 days.
And I'm sure it doesn't count the one that I was told this morning was just ordered
It's on
in
there. I
Australia
saw it.
from the balcony.
Oh, no, it's not up there yet. So that's 54. That will roll over either later this afternoon or in the morning. Once it pops up, that'll be added to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Midnight Publishing knows what they're doing. Been doing it a long time. What we offer, you can't afford anywhere else. 4 million views on YouTube and we're on TV. You can't buy that kind of marketing.
And that man who was scammed out of $6,000
Exactly.
by a publisher that stole his book, basically, certainly is not going to give that author any kind of promotions.
No, he's not going to give him his money back either. So, find us. We're not that hard to find. We're everywhere. If you Google us, we pop up. And if you Google your books, Carol, front page, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. When's the last time you Googled yourself, Carol?
It's been, I don't know when I've done that.
Do it.
Well, you will be amazed. Just put your name in, or better yet, put the name of one of your books.
Yeah, pops right up.
See what happens.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Carol, thank you, my darling. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for everything that you've done, and I just appreciate you guys, both of you. So
You are welcome.
So,
Mary, my love, I will talk to you later.
Yes, ma'am.
We will be back here next Wednesday. Not sure yet who we'll have on, if it'll be Kara Benson or if it'll be Darlene J-Jo, but we'll have somebody. If not, we'll do our thing, because that's what we do.
Yes.
So until then, I love you all.
Love you.
And
blessings.
We'll see
Bye.
you next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Bye.